reflective video for contemporary practice, exercise for working from artefacts. Now, I really enjoyed this assignment. It opened up new pathways, threads and links to personal interest. I slightly changed my direction of the way that I would normally work in a bit more of an abstract manner with textile samples, possibly not taking the ideas too literal. But I did really enjoy the fact that I'd already decided that I wanted to work purely with paper. Now, I think I wanted to work with paper because it kind of started to push the boundaries with experimentation. I consider it a traditional material, and over a period of mark making and surface changing, I was achieving some excellent results that could then possibly replicate into other forms of media. That could be print, or it could be, for example, mixed media. So what I'd initially done was set a foundation to possibly, without actually realising, push the boundaries of critical thinking to take these samples in various directions. So it turned out to be quite an interesting assignment. Now, at the start, which I do normally find with a lot of the assignments, the research is kind of left up to the individual to try and push it as much as possible so that you are learning about other textile practitioners. And I did come across a particular favourite, Susie McMurray. I considered that her installations were absolutely beautiful. They were stunning. And it also combines the combinations of the context that they were set in. Stately homes, stairways and high ceilings. So you kind of really got a sense of scale with her textile installations, and also as well a real feeling for the medium, the mixed media. And initially this is where the paper idea did come from an installation that she put in with music sheets, and it had a connection with voices. Further on with the investigations, I still really like Louise Cussons-Scott, her work, and furthering the research into that, she does actually want to generate an archive feel. But the one thing that I do love about her work is there's lots of texture to the paper. And then following that research up, I looked at Cas Holmes, which again, both Louise Cussons-Scott and Cas Holmes, they work a lot with paper. They also seem to work a lot with, which I'd started early on, was a lot of tracing paper. Now, the tracing paper kind of was starting for me to think about disappearance and possible artefact history, where things become sort of translucent in their medium, decay, translucent if writing is used, and so forth. And also started to make me think about voices and meanings, and voices disappearing from the past. So as I started to think about these ideas, I was bullet pointing, note making, and one of the biggest tools that I have found is mind mapping. I really find it's just such a useful tool that you could kind of sit there on a coffee break and make up a mind map on a piece of paper, pop it in your pocket, and take it home and put it back into the assignment. So as I continued with my research with practitioners, we were asked to look at artists and textile practitioners that base their work around artefacts, and I'd come across two which were particular favourites: Keita Jackson and Joshua Good. Now, Keita Jackson, her work was just absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful, fine copper wire woven to make artefact vessels, and they were just so delicate and refined. And then Joshua Good, his ideas behind his work were quite fascinating because they were presented in such a manner that he was actually taking ideas and objects from the past, but actually piecing together with modern day, some of them personal objects, and actually thinking about presenting them in an archaeological way, which was very interesting. A lot of the research that I had looked at was via documentaries, which through YouTube, which was also very, very interesting. Again, I could work with mind maps and bullet points these ideas, so I got straight to the point. Now, we were asked to look into our own archives, and I'm not too sure whether I'd gone in the wrong direction, but I put together a personal archive, a local history, and another archive which is of interest to me because I do love history, was ancient archives. My personal archive became quite an emotional thing, so I kind of extracted school reports of mine, and it also opens up kind of looking back on families and friends. And I have a tin at home which has got cards and letters in, so over the years I've collated my own archive, so that was, you know, taking me back through decades, past 20 years and so forth. So I selected and sorted various items and objects, and same with local history, did a lot of research on Kidderminster, and then I continued to just extract a little bit of the ancient history. The only trouble with that is I think once you go down the route of sampling something like that, which was Egypt, you have to be very careful that you can feel as though you're starting to replicate imagery and iconic symbols and so forth from history. So I then started to go back to the personal archive and the local history, and then as we worked with links and threads, started to make the connections of what was being drawn out from my personal history and the local history with things like cemeteries and architecture, and reducing that down, refining the ideas with words, again with meanings, with dates, names, and so forth. And it was quite a learning curve, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Used a combination of a lot of photographs, video, to build up this collected information of research. We were then asked at some point to do a critique on two practitioners, and because I've never done it before, I thought it was an absolute disaster. So I reworked part of the assignment. I then researched in how to critique somebody else's work, because I didn't want it to kind of feel as though it was all negative. So I printed out some reports and basic knowledge on critiquing artwork. I suppose really it's relaying it. It's a critical analysis of somebody else's work, which again I think is very difficult. Critical analysis with your own personal work is just as difficult with somebody else's. So I would have said that was a slight obstacle within this assignment. I looked into my contemporary textiles and took the direction of not looking too much at the artists because I didn't want it to become artist research. But again, I collated a couple of names, Josh Blakewell, and he sort of embroiders plastic bags, and these become very textural. I got a bit of an idea that I started to feel as though his presentation, he was presenting his bags over somebody's head, the human form. That did give me an idea of a textile warrior, that I put together a few of my own ideas. And Sue Hotchkins, absolutely idolised her work. and I kind of used her as an inspiration for putting my abstract textile papers together. So that was really interesting. Then we were asked to do a techniques file. Loved doing that. I was able, whether it was the right thing or not, I'm not too sure, but I extracted some old work from textiles vocabulary, mixed media, put those into my file boxes. So I'd got wooden boxes to put in my techniques file and my preliminary sampling, so that I can access these and add to them for future, because there were, you know, some very good ideas going on that again I could pick up at any one point and continue in the future with some other projects. So just to finalise this reflection, I'd started looking at the learning outcomes for contemporary practice and started to familiarise myself for them, obviously in preparation for assessment. I think as the courses have gone on, it's only kind of now that I'm getting used to the idea of what's expected. I do feel that digital submission, I won't say it helps you select and sort and put the best of your work, but I think it enables you to put an array of your work down. Mind mapping has been an excellent tool, or a critique board, and I'm also going to go back to my essay and start all over again, and I'm going to work in this method of mind mapping and so forth. And I think video's been an important part of my assignment work, so I have kind of submitted, because obviously our tutors can't see the physical side of the sketchbooks and sample making, so I try to do as much of this as possible. I do try to keep the assignments as organised as possible, keeping a flow in the sketchbook, flow of ideas and writing down the flow of how the exercises are going and so forth. I do use a lot of photographs. Again, I think this is because I will, for the future, keep all my sketchbooks and so forth. And I think that at this point, I've really enjoyed working from the artefacts because I can relate to it well. In actual fact, I've really enjoyed contemporary practice. I think it's been fantastic, very well written. My tutor's been very supportive. I am undergoing a few issues at the moment with essay writing and academic, and I'm trying so hard to go to try and achieve. I've also attended a few Zoom meetings and also the arts-based work group on the new OCA Learn. Sometimes I do feel a little bit out of my depth because I don't always know how to write what I think or I feel, so I do struggle there, so I do have a tendency to pull back. But at the moment there are a few things in motion. I think before dealing with assignment 5, I am going to try and crack this essay. Not looking forward to it. I'm going to use as many supportive apps and so forth, and writing apps to help support this writing, and I know my tutor's been another great supportive person, so hopefully, touch wood, we will get there. But that's it really. I hope you enjoyed the video.